Welcome everybody to Watercolor by Heart, the creative challenge. And tonight we're going to paint ribbons. How many of you here did ribbons for Art Feast? Probably a couple years ago. Anybody? Mom? Oh,
Maybe.
well, I'm glad you're here. Maybe, well, I'm doing it again, but when the first time I did it, I have to say I had a reaction like, oh, ribbons, that was so hard. So maybe that's why nobody came back. I don't know. But then I had other comments on like later, people said, oh, now I know why we did ribbons because it all made sense. It's all about the edges that match up. So you might think, why ribbons? Well, first of all, ribbons are pretty fun to paint, but it's more than just painting ribbons. So, and you'll see why. So I would like you to stay muted during the videos, but please unmute at the end of different sections to ask me questions. And I would like for you to have 2 pencils and a piece of paper like printer paper or your sketchbook, something to draw on. Don't do this first part on your good watercolor paper because it's just practice how to draw the ribbons, how to make them look 3-dimensional. So I will start showing the video. Let's see, I think there was something else. Okay, so like I said, it's not about just doing ribbons. It's about the edges of the ribbons. And you will see the connection when you get to a petal or a leaf that kind of curls a little bit. This will help you to see those edges. A flag that is furling, this all makes sense for something like that. This video is about 40 minutes long, which is a little longer than usual because I didn't slow it down that much. So you can draw along in the beginning and you may even be able to paint along. So have your paints handy too. Oh, and I will apologize now for all the mistakes. And I could have easily have edited them out and look like I just did it with no problem. But I thought, no, you need to see that I made some errors and I had to fix them. So one is really kind of embarrassing. I really wanted to take it out, but I didn't. So you get to see all of that. All right, so I'll show the video and I'm going to stop after we draw ribbons. So save your questions for the end. Hopefully you can all hear that.
I'm going to show you a fun way to draw ribbons. So just grab 2 pencils and some printer paper. Nothing fancy while we practice drawing ribbons.
Hold your pencils kind of like chopsticks. Doesn't matter how far apart they are. Well, maybe about 1 inch or so. Whatever feels comfortable. Just hold them pretty stiff. And now I'm going to draw some simple ribbons. So I want to keep the angle of my hand the same too. I don't want to keep changing the angle of my hand. So just do some curves across the page until it feels comfortable. And you notice that your hand is not changing the angle of the pencils. And do as many of these as you need to feel comfortable. Make sure you cross over the lines once in a while. It gets a little more complex, but we'll have fun with that later. Now I want to connect some of these edges so they really look like ribbons. Okay, so the ribbon has a straight edge here. And see these curves? You're going to connect those parallel curves. Connect with a straight line from the outer edge of one curve to the outer edge of the other. Don't make it sticking out. Make it straight. Just straight down. Sometimes there's not a whole lot like this. Not a whole lot of overlapping. And then, let's see, this edge and this edge connect too. Let's see. I think that edge is right here. So you don't really see too much of that. This gets easier with practice. So go through all of your curves and we'll start connecting them to make them look three-dimensional. So here's the outside of this curve and this curve. Straight line. Straight line. These don't really, I can't connect those. These I can connect, and I can connect this. You tend to want to go curve it, but make sure you go straight. And this curve and this curve. All right, I'm going to go around all of mine and do that first, and then I'm going to show you the next step. Because this takes a little practice knowing which curves to connect. Right now these look like transparent ribbons. We can see through one side to the other. But we'll fix that with the next step. Connect all your curves and straight edges. Okay, now we want to keep these from looking transparent, so we have to do some erasing. And this takes a little bit of thinking. So you have to decide which part of the ribbon is in front. And I'm going to say this part is in front, so I will erase that line and that little line there. And see how that is now in front, and we've lost that edge. And now this is in front of this ribbon, so I will erase that. Okay, now moving over here. I mean, you get to decide which is which, but I think I want to put this in front. Let's see. I'm going to put that in front, so I have to erase all of this. And if this is in front of this, it's also in front right here. See how that looks more three-dimensional now? Now let's do this one. You could go either way. So you decide if you want this to be in front or if you want that to be in front. I'm seeing it as this one's in front, so I'll erase that little spot there. No, I just erased it and put it back. I meant to do this. Now what did I just do? I think I switched it, but whatever. Now, that looks right. All right, so if this is now behind this, so I have to erase this spot. It can really be an optical illusion, so you just have to think about it a little bit. All right, this looks like it goes in front, so I will erase that spot. And sometimes you have to erase the wrong spot to know which is the right one. And this is in front, so I will erase this. And this comes towards the front, so I will erase this. And this is in the front, so I erase right here. With some practice, you will automatically see which side should be in the front. Now I will erase the lines on the other side. Some are kind of obvious, and others you really have to think about it
and decide which is going to be in the front and the back. Like this curve over here it's a little confusing. And that doesn't even work. So I need to start over. So just draw the lines back in and start over and do it the opposite way.
But you can see how you can change it depending on which lines you erase. And some look better than others. We're just making up ribbons, so we get to decide. So practice this on scrap paper for as long as you need to. It's kind of fun, and it's amazing how you will start to see how this all works. Something else you can do to help you really see how the edges work.
I'm going to stop for a minute. Sorry. How was that? Is that completely confusing, or are you getting that? You can unmute yourselves. Yes, Dorothy.
I feel like the first 2 minutes, I wasn't following it. I would like to see if you could go slower and I could watch, because my ribbons did not look like anything that I could work with.
Okay. Did your wrist switch angles? Like, I want you to keep your wrist.
Oh,
really
no.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
If you can, this takes a little practice, but make sure when you're holding your pencils, your two pencils, make sure when you're doing your curves, see, my wrist doesn't move. Don't go like this and do your curves. Keep them all the same angle. That's important. Did everybody see how I did that? Let me spotlight myself. When you're drawing them, don't go like this. Go like this. See the two pencils? And my wrist does not change. That makes a big difference. Anybody
You
else?
might mention at the beginning that the two pencils should be the same length. I mean, I just grabbed two pencils and one of them wasn't down at the same place the other one was.
The points need to be on your paper, but it doesn't matter how long your pencils are.
Well,
but your point needs to be both of them on your paper for sure. Yeah.
Right. I started out and I didn't have that.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. Anybody else have a question? And this definitely takes a little practice. But once you get it, oh, it'll feel so good. All right, the next part of it is just kind of emphasizing the edges. And so I'll show you that part next. Before we start painting, we're not ready to paint yet. We're going to do a little bit more drawing on those same ribbons. And remember, you will have this video to watch over and over again if you don't quite get it. Okay, there it goes. Now I have a red pencil for this part.
Follow it around your ribbon and notice how it disappears behind the ribbon sometimes. Now, so this bottom edge of the ribbon, it comes and then it disappears and then it shows up again. And then that becomes this edge. This is important. It's important when painting ribbons, but it's important for other things that curve like this, like the petals of flowers or a flag that is, you know, furling flag. So notice how it disappears and then it shows up again. That red is the same edge all the way through this ribbon.
Okay, did that make sense about following the edge around and it disappears? And there are not so much on these ribbons because we are not changing too much where the edge is, but sometimes a leaf really flips around and you have to follow where that same edge is because it may show up in a different spot than you're not really expecting, but you follow the edge. All right, I'll give you a couple minutes to get the hang of the ribbon, and then you'll draw one on your watercolor paper. If you feel like you got it, then I want you to draw it on your watercolor paper. If you feel like you need a little bit more practice getting it, then do that first because you'll be happier with your painting.
Do you always drop, it's a perpendicular line, right? Down?
Yes, let's just do that for this ribbon just to keep it simple. But if you are actually setting up a ribbon in front of you, you just look and see what's happening. And especially like a leaf might not always be perpendicular, you know, depending on the curve of it. So you really have to observe. This is sort of a generic ribbon, you know, really simple to get the idea of it. And then you can take it to another level.
I have a very hard time with the loop. I can't tell where my edges are.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely takes some thinking. As you saw my very embarrassing erasing the wrong thing a few times. But just know that sometimes you just have to erase the wrong one. And when it's wrong, you know it, but you can't tell till after you erase it. Anybody have one you want to show me?
Can you?
Oh yeah, I can see it. Oh, they're a nice ribbon. That's a nice ribbon.
But I am finding it tricky to figure out where to go with, say, I don't know if you could see this side, but I'm trying to do what you said, which is follow the line and see which one makes sense.
Right.
Give this more.
I know that one curve you're pointing to, I cannot see it, but the other curves I'm seeing, I think they work. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that looks nice.
Okay.
It works.
Thank you.
Did you see that?
Oh, Stephanie, let me blow you up here.
Can you see it?
Yes. Oh, nice. Nice. There's one spot at the very bottom curve, that big round curve
This one?
there. Yeah, you have to erase that little line.
That's a little line.
Yep, erase that one, and then you got it.
Then I was playing with these. I was trying to
Oh, really getting curly.
curly
Oh,
ribbon.
they work. They work. I mean, you have to just follow it and see, make sure. But with a quick glance, it looks like they all work. Mom, let's see. All right. Yeah, I think they work. I see one spot where you have to connect the curves, and that's the curve at the very bottom of the top ribbon. No, go up and over. Yes, the bottom there.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
right there. Yeah, that works.
Oh, thanks.
I think I have it.
Let's see.
I need to move it.
Oh, I love that curve at the bottom. Yeah.
Good.
That one should go out.
Yeah, that works. That's a twisty ribbon. All right, are we ready to move on and draw on your good paper and paint? Okay, unless anybody's in a panic, you're not ready, I'm going to get started.
I'm going to use this photo because it has some nice light and shadow as it goes around the ribbon. It's kind of a simple design. So I'm going to roughly draw what I see there. But I do want to show some perspective, so the ribbon here is thinner than it is here. So let's see if I can do that by moving my pencil a little bit. So I'm just kind of looking at this pencil point and the top edge of the ribbon as I draw around it. But remember, I'm going to be a little flexible. I'm going to slowly make the ribbon a little wider as I come around. Yeah, close enough. And now I will connect the curves. And now I have to erase. I can look at this as my reference and decide which lines to erase. Which one is on top and front. Even when I'm looking at it, sometimes I really have to think about it. That's pretty good.
Now you draw a ribbon on your watercolor paper.
Now I'll start painting it. I think I'll keep it in the pink family, so maybe this color right here. This is Permanent Alizarin Crimson. And I want to keep in mind these nice highlights. So I could paint this whole thing very lightly and then just build up my darks later. Where you want a nice smooth edge, just go slowly and use the point of the brush. Since the paper's dry, the paint only goes where I put it. It's really dark over there, so I'll take advantage of the wet paint and I'll use some of this blue to make it a little darker. If it's not the right value, I won't worry about that just yet. And right here is light, so watch what I'll do. There's another area of light here too. Notice I'm not going to go all the way down because I want to take advantage of how wet this is right now, because there's things I can do while it's wet. So this highlight here, I'm just using a thirsty brush, and when I lift it up, it gives me a very soft edge like I see there. I have to keep my eye on it because the paint may move back into there because it's still wet. I also see a highlight here because the light is coming, it's hitting the ribbon this way. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect on your first go round. We can touch this up. All right, now the dark on this side. So I'll keep with this pink, but I'll darken it up. My go-to color is usually a blue, but not always. Sometimes it's a purple. Kind of depends on what's happening around it. Okay, so I see dark here and dark here because it's both are away from the light. What's happening there? I lost my light here and here. That's why I don't go too far, because I have to keep my eye on everything. You cannot walk away from your watercolor sometimes. You have to keep an eye on things, because as long as it's wet, it's moving around. There are times to walk away from a painting, and sometimes you need to keep your eye on things. Okay, I got that light back. See, it's a little bit lighter back here, so while it's wet, I'm going to lift it up. You know, I don't want that blue coming around here, so I might skip that section and go to this section. It gets a little bit lighter here, so get some of that paint off my brush and just spread this out. It needs to be wetter. It's dark here, so let's get that blue in here while it's wet. I'm not even worrying about the shadows yet. I'll continue painting the ribbon, and I will add the highlights by adding a little water to where I want it lighter, and using a thirsty brush to pick up any excess color to make it lighter. See some blooms happening here. Sometimes you can fix them easily, sometimes you make a bigger mess. I'm going to let this dry because this is so wet. I'm going to let it dry before I do that. While this is still drying, I see a bloom that happened here. I guess I didn't fix it last time. So I will take my scrub brush. That's just a little too hard line there, so got to get rid of that. My scrub brush will move that right out of the way. So I wet my brush and then blot it because I don't want it very wet. And I just move that paint around to smooth it out. I'll go back later and clean up some more, but I wanted to get rid of that hard edge. I'll continue to wait for this to dry. Now I'll finish this one. I'm keeping an eye on those edges. I need them to stay wet while I do this. Now I'll let this dry, and I will build up some of the shadows on the ribbon in the next step. Now I'm going to continue to add some darks to this ribbon. If my light is coming this way, then I'm seeing the shadow where it's turned away from the light. I need a soft edge there. So I'll rinse my brush, dry it a little bit, and spread it out. Notice I'm keeping a little bit of a light edge at the top. That's to show the thickness of the ribbon. It's not a very thick ribbon, but I'm exaggerating it a little bit. And I see a little shadow there too. And I'll go around to some of the darkest places and make it a little darker. And this time I'm using the red to make it darker. And I forgot to leave a little lip there. Let me start over. I want to show the thickness of this ribbon. You see the thickness at the top, not at the bottom. I keep forgetting that little lip there. That's okay, I'll show you how you can get it later. This side is like the back side of the ribbon, so it is a little darker than this. So I'm going to leave that a little darker than this highlight. I need to make these a little bit darker too, but not quite as dark as the other side. Now I'll clean up some edges before adding shadows. Make sure this is dry before you touch it. But a nice flat angle brush will get rid of any little blips that you may have created. I need to fix this little turn here. I think I want to soften this. I risk messing it up, but well, if I mess it up, that's okay. I'm still learning. But it just was a very hard edge. This ribbon is shiny, but not so shiny that there's hard edge highlights. That would be more of a satiny. All right, now I kind of lost the lip, or no, the little edge of the ribbon. I wanted to exaggerate it a little bit, so I'm going to use this same brush to try to get that. And if I can't get it on every edge, that's okay. But I just want to see if I can get some of it. There a little bit. It mostly shows up on the turn. Remember, this edge is the same as this edge. So somehow make them look like they're the same edge. Get a continuous edge there. Be nice to get it over here too. It also helps to clean up edges too. And this edge is this edge. I think this edge needs to be cleaned up a little. Let me check. This is in front. It's kind of hard to see. It's an optical illusion. That is looking a little more three-dimensional, but wait until I put those shadows in. I need to let this dry completely, and then I'll add the shadows on the surface of the table. Now I'm going to add the shadow, and since I've just been using these two colors, I think I'll continue with just the two colors. So I want to keep this nice, straight, clean edge against the ribbon, and then it gets softer as it goes out. And I think that color is a little too bright, so I'm going to have to tone it down. So I can get a clean, I think I need to clean my water. Clean water back there, and so I can let the shadow bleed a little bit. See, I have a little blip there. I don't dare touch it right now. If I just wait for it to dry, I can brush that off. All right, what am I going to use to dull that shadow a little bit? I'm going to put some of this red in there so it doesn't look quite so bright. Is that perfect? No. But I think I have to let it sit for a little while because it's a really thick puddle right now. So I'll come back to that. I need to clean my water. So I got clean water and a smaller brush. I like what happened there, so I'm going to do that again. This shadow. It's hard edge right up to the edge of the ribbon. Not dark enough though. Now I need to soften that edge around here. So I put water a little bit away from it and then gradually let it touch. Again, I'm not going for perfection, but I want it to be a little softer edge out here, and probably should not fuss with it. Leave it alone. Walk away from it, Marnie. All right, I see a shadow in here too. And for this one, I could go right up on the ribbon too. It's almost easier than going in between the ribbon. I'm very aware of that edge. I don't want it to dry before I can spread it out. Just for fun, I like to drop in some of the other colors, because this, even though you don't see it much on this photo, that pink is reflecting on the surface. It's dry, so now I can do this shadow. I notice that I do each one a little bit different. I'm experimenting, and also I don't really want them all to be exactly the same. Okay, I see some things that really do need to be fixed. Some things happened while the paint was still wet, and I don't like this. There's nothing that would cause a shadow to do that right there. So I don't panic, I just clean it up. So I'm using a scrub brush. Also, that little edge shouldn't be sticking up quite so much. Ugh. Make sure you use a clean paper towel. Must have dipped into my yellow on my palette. Don't panic. If all else fails, I'll just add yellow to more of the painting, but I think it's going to be okay. But I better get a clean paper towel. This did some weird things here, which I don't mind all of that, but it's a little too bumpy, so I'm going to smooth it out. And this is a little too bumpy. And this should not stick up like that. That little blip that used to be there is no longer there. That's looking better. This might be too round. It really is more curved, so I will do that because that's just not a believable shadow. I don't care that it's a little bigger, but the shape's not right because the shadow describes the shape of the ribbon too. So if it's too thick, it just doesn't work. That's much better. That looks pretty three-dimensional. Is it perfect? No. But it looks three-dimensional, and that's the goal. But there's another thing I want to watch, and that is these edges. Like this edge, does it look like it continues there? No. I see a little break there, so I have to fix that. Let me go around this one. That's pretty good. That one's pretty good. There's a little blip there I could fix. I might fix a little bit of that. That one's pretty good. A little thick, but it's pretty good. This one really needs to be fixed. So I have this flat angle that's a little thinner than the last one. See if I can get this to be convincing. This edge continues to the top of this part of the ribbon.
I think it's done.
Here's something fun you can try now that you know how to make a ribbon look three-dimensional and you have an idea what the shadows do. Try writing a word. I'm going to write the word ribbon.
Really like that ribbon word.
Oh, that was so much fun to do. And that's fun when you just use one color, then it's kind of easier to just think about where the light is. I forgot to tell you, I drew a little light at the top so I could remind myself where my light was. Because you can forget. I know it did go kind of fast. Did everybody finish your ribbon?
I could see where like the light was, and even in the picture I could see why when you pointed out that how the light was hitting it. But sometimes the shadows, even in the picture, didn't quite make sense to me. Like there was a couple of shadows. I would think, you have light on one side, so then the shadow it cast would be harder there, but it didn't always work that way.
Yeah, well, it all depends on what the light is doing. So I would go by observation first and, and see if it looks okay. But
Okay.
yeah, just keep observing what the light and shadows do in everything. Mindy?
When you were going along the edge, to show how thick the ribbon is, were you
Mhm.
just using a thirsty brush there or a color or what?
It was mostly that very small flat angle brush. And I was lifting the edge to
Okay,
clean it up. Yeah, so it was more of a thirsty brush. It was damp.
okay,
And I was making it lighter, so I wasn't really adding color. I was lifting it.
okay. And that's what makes it look dimensional?
Yes, especially on those curves, if you can make that top edge of the ribbon continue, because when you're drawing it and first painting it, they're kind of separate, but you get that one edge back and it becomes a ribbon, a continuous edge.
I don't understand what to do with this here. I'm trying to figure out what did I do wrong.
Well, it's not wrong. It's just that those curves are so, the way they are, you barely will see like that straight edge that connects them. You're like looking straight on at the curve, so you don't really see the side of the ribbon.
So
Doesn't look wrong to me.
it doesn't look wrong.
No. If you like get a ribbon out and look at it like from the top of the ribbon down, and you won't see the sides in that position. I think that's what's happening there.
So do you think if you're making a ribbon, as I just did, which is not a ribbon I am going to be able to look at,
Right.
that it's a lot harder to know where to put the shadows and stuff?
I think you should get a ribbon and observe it, play with the light, see what happens. Not that you have to paint that one, but you learn what the light will do and you can make it up on this. But I'm seeing, just like you have that one that you asked me about, all the way on the other side, you have another area like that too. Yeah, right there. It's happening right there too. You don't really see the side of the ribbon.
Okay. Right. And in here, this is correct, having this come around like that.
Yeah, that looks right.
Okay. Yeah, I just need to look at some ribbon and get a little bit more.
Yes.
Yeah.
It always helps to draw from life. Observational drawing is so important because it builds your visual vocabulary. Like I can make up a shadow on a ribbon because I have observed it and drawn it and painted it from real life or from a photo of it, the actual thing. So once you do that, then you can make it up. So don't do your word first. Definitely look at either that photo I sent you or do something yourself with a ribbon. And if you're going to do it yourself, I just suggest that you have one light source. Don't drive yourself crazy with multiple light sources. You won't understand the shadows as much. Give yourself one light source. It's so much simpler to see it.
So when you did the ribbon, which I'm forgetting now because it's not in front of me, you were just thinking of a light source.
Yes. I drew it. I put the light source. I drew a little sun up here. So to remind me, the light is hitting it this way. So I tried to get all my lights on that side. And then anything that was away from the light got the darks. So that is very helpful because as things twist around, you kind of forget where you meant for your light to be. Okay. Dorothy.
Did you ever draw in any underside? I don't have any underside of the ribbon showing.
You need to cross over your curves. You're just going up and down, but when you draw it, don't just go up and down. draw it and go over and then back up and then over, and then you'll get a little bit more of two sides.
Okay.
Did you do that just now in class?
Yeah,
Wow.
but did I get the shadows in the right places?
I think so. I think you have to go darker, unless it's
Darker.
darker, not on this video.
No,
but
it's pretty pale. Well, here.
okay. Well, yeah, see your curves and you have the cast shadow on the table,
Yeah.
but the ribbon is kind of light. So that definitely has to be darker in those curves there
Okay.
on what is my left side looking at it, right where your hand is.
Right.
That side. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
That's-
okay. I'll darken. I just wanted to make sure I had them in the right places because my ribbon's different than yours. So mine ended different than yours. So I knew there had to be light on the other side. So, all right.
Okay.
I'm figuring it out. But okay.
Yep, you are.
I'll go darker.
It's always go darker. It's very
Yeah.
rare when I don't say go darker.
That's true.
Cecily.
I just have a funny, I think you can have a doll made up, a Marnie doll, and you pull it, and sometimes it'll say, go darker, fix your edges.
And then it says go darker again, and then go darker again. Oh, I want to ask you, the music on the video was starting to bug me. How about you?
A little.
Yeah. Oh, it was not supposed to be as loud as it was. Sorry about that.
I was so focused on what you were doing and showing us, but probably if I were to watch it again and again.
I'll work on that for the next one.
I have a question for Jackie.
Yes.
When you did the one on the paper, watercolor paper, did you draw on printer paper and then take that drawing to put it on watercolor paper? Did you use what you used before to?
No, I just used the sketch pad paper for the first one. Yeah. And then it's not the same one that I actually like the one on the sketch pad better than the one I did on the watercolor. But no, it was just, I think that's what Marnie had mentioned to do. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, do it a lot in your sketchbook or on paper, because then it definitely gets easier. Still have to think though, as you saw, I was still making mistakes.
Nice to know you're human.
Yes, I sure am. Peggy, what did you say?
Mistakes were helpful because
Oh,
clean them up
mhm.
was kind of, and which brush you used to clean them up with was great.
Yeah, it's all about cleaning up. There's somebody had a saying, the difference between a beginner and a professional is the professional knows how to clean up their mistakes, right? So then once you know how to clean up your mistakes, you're not as afraid to make them because, I can go back and fix that. And notice I didn't let the mistakes stop me. I was finishing that painting, so I knew I could go back to them.
Now, Marnie, that cleanup brush is not the one we were discussing at the beginning. The Adobe or whatever the name is.
Oh, no, that's my painting brush. The Escoda Prado, that's what I paint with. I mean, it was my thirsty brush, so I clean up some things with the thirsty brush, but it's soft and it has a nice point and it holds a lot of water or paint. My cleanup brushes are the flat angle brushes.
Yeah.
And the scrubber. That's what I use to clean up the most.
And if you order the flat angle, it is called a flat angle?
Yes, flat angle. And I think I have a 1/4 inch for little spots and a 1/2 inch for bigger ones. I think that's what I use the most, those two sizes. And I like them because they're a little bit stiff. So they get, when they're wet, you can control them easier. And if you don't press really hard, they have this very thin edge and you can lift out really thin lines. But if you press harder, of course, it gets thicker.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you saw me when I wet the brush, I squeezed it between my fingers to get it nice and flat. Yeah, every painting ends with a flat angle brush and a scrubber because I go around all my edges before I decide I'm finished. I need to make sure my edges match up where they need to match up. Okay, so you have a week to paint some ribbons and send them to me, and we will meet here next week, next Thursday at 6 o'clock. So I'll see you all at the next one.
Thank you, hon.